I invite us all to be the catalyst in the room that we walk into, in the atmosphere where we go into. And a catalyst is a change agent. It is an agent that is introduced and causes a chemical reaction and a change, but it itself does not change. Hey. So what it's saying is that a catalyst is something that you introduce into something that causes a reaction, but that thing itself does not change. That person is a catalyst for change. And what I am charging us with today is to be a catalyst for change in any and every negative environment that we walk into. That's how we fight. We walk into every room, every arena. We've got to make our presence known. Not Orlando's presence, but Yahweh's presence. Let them see it dripping all over you. When you're in the presence of Yeshua, when you are on your knees, when you are in the presence of Yahweh, you must change. You have to change. You will change. So that is why in our weakness, we are strong. Because oftentimes our weaknesses drive us to our knees and drive us into the presence of Yahweh. And it's there where we perfect our ability to fight, where we understand that it's not me. That's when we understand I've got to get me out of the way quick so I can fight this spiritual battle. Hey, I got to put on the entire armor of God in order to withstand the devil. The last time we spoke, we discussed the paradox, something that is seemingly sounding absurd, yet once explained, it makes sense. And we left off with being strong, even though we are weak, being righteous and holy, even though we are sinners living in a sinful world. It's a paradox, but everything makes sense once you're in Christ. Hey, but that thing, paradox, to recap quickly, the paradox of the widow being sustained by a small jar of oil that never runs out. That was foreshadowing. Hey, because the Spirit never runs out. Hey, the little that you have, Yahweh can use. That's what we need to understand right now. Whatever little thing that you have left, Yahweh is saying you can lose everything. Everybody, every friend, every job, your house, your home. But that little thing that you have that you hold on to, that little measure of faith that I gave you, that little measure of a gift that I gave you, that little measure of a voice, of a mind, whatever that thing is that Yahweh gave you, he is saying, I can use that to make you prosperous. I'm going to use that to sustain you. That's why the man of God said, shut the door. Because he didn't want someone to see her pouring out of this little jar. Because to them, they would think that the jar, hey, come on now. They would think that the miracle was the jar. But the jar wasn't the miracle. The jar wasn't magic. It was the relationship with the prophet. Hey, it's the relationship that her husband had with the prophet. And their relationship with Yahweh. Because of that relationship, the miracle happened. Because of that relationship, the oil kept flowing. And so she went from feeling like she was cursed, to a blessing. Oh, stop it now. She went from being like she felt like she had nothing left to give, to not only being sustained by the oil, but also now sustaining the village with the oil. The oil was a necessity back then. You cooked with this oil. You put the oil in lamps. Everything, you would make a bomb out of this oil. Hey, everything you could use for this with this oil. This oil was sustenance and had a sustaining power. But you shut the door because you don't want the people to think that this jar is magic and that the jar now gets the glory of Yahweh. Hey, everything that you are going through right now. Yes, some of you may have wanted to win the lottery by now. Some of us may not have had the perfect job, the perfect house, the perfect anything that we want right now, but it's perfect for you right now in this situation. Everything that you are going through right now is so that Yahweh gets the glory, because he's going to bring you through the other side. That's why we go through trials and tribulations. So look at Job. He went through all of this so that Yahweh gets the glory, so that in the end, Yahweh gets the glory. Hey. But oftentimes we have to be put into situations where we've reached our limit, our physical limit. Hey, we've got to be placed in situations where we have reached our physical limits, because once we have reached our physical limit, then we turn it over to Yahweh. I wish we weren't like this, but that is how humans are. We're stubborn like sheep, it says. And we're always, no matter at what stage, even I do it now. Sometimes the first inclination for me is to, when something happens, is how do I fix this monetarily? Hey, when they cut my mother's disability, I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to make up for the money that was lost when they cut her disability? And there was no way for me to do it. And so I cried out to God. When I'd reached my extremities, when I'd reached my physical and financial limits, I cried out. I got on my knees. True story. I got on my knees and I said, Yahweh, I need a ram in the bush. And he provided. And he provided. I didn't plan to say this, but let me tell you exactly what happened. Everything was cut. She was in a bad situation to where I needed to. I was driving my daughter to school and I heard the message with Tony Evans on the radio. And he was talking about Abraham and the ram in the bush. And as I dropped my daughter off, I kept on listening to the sermon, and I came back home and I fell on my knees and I said, Yahweh, that's what I need. I need the ram in the bush. Later on, I received a letter from the IRS saying that they had taxed my mother's pension. And I'm like, I haven't gotten her pension. What do you mean you taxed it? How do you tax something I didn't get? And I'm looking all around and I'm telling my wife, I'm sitting there exasperated, and I'm telling her, Alita, I did not get her pension. What are these people talking about? And I slumped back in my chair and I looked at my desk. And there was an unmarked white envelope sealed underneath the monitor of my computer. And it had been there a while because it was a little dusty. And I just slowly reached my hand over and grabbed it. And I opened the letter. I pulled the check out. And it was her pension. And I said, oh. There was nothing else that I could say but just, oh. The ram in the bush. My question, every time I read the story about Abraham and Isaac and the ram in the bush, I was like, when he walked up there, how didn't he see the ram in the bush? And how didn't he hear the ram in the bush? But how did I miss that envelope that was on my desk with nothing else there? The envelope had been sitting there actually for months when I looked at the date on it. For months. But at the right time, the ram in the bush. The reason Abraham and the reason I did not notice the ram in the bush is because life's turmoils and life's trials were weighing on us so heavy that we had tunnel vision and we weren't seeing anything else and we weren't hearing anything else. And so Yahweh allowed us to go through trials and tribulations to reach the edge, to reach the breaking point, but not to break us, because he promised to never put more on me than I can bear. He promised to never put more on you than you can bear. But we reached that breaking point. We reached our physical extremity. And then we cried out to Yahweh. Yahweh, fix it. And he's like, I've been waiting for months, Orlando. I've been watching you struggle for months trying to find a solution. And I had to allow you to reach your breaking point. I had to allow you to reach your physical extremity so that you would just turn it over to me. Hey, so that you would just turn it back over. And when I said I needed the ram in the bush, ladies and gentlemen, he provided the ram in the bush. That's my miracle. Where is Yahweh pushing you so that he can expose your miracle to you? Hey, he's going to do it. But we've got to reach to that point. Just like Naaman in the Bible, who was afflicted with leprosy. He came to Israel to see the prophet Elijah and ask to be healed. But the prophet didn't heal him how he wanted to be healed. Hey, see, that's the problem right there. See, we want God to bless us how we want and how we feel that Yahweh should bless us. We want Yahweh to perform the miracle how we feel that Yahweh should perform the miracle. But God is saying, just like he said to Job, where were you when I hung the stars in the universe? Where were you when I made the Milky Way? Where were you? Where were you when I made galaxy after galaxy so vast and large that they can't even see it or number these stars? Where were you? Who are you to question me? Who are you to tell me how to show up and when to show up? But I'm going to tell you right now, he keeps his word that he always shows up at the right time. Hey, it may not be the time that we want, but it's always on time. Hey, it may not be the answers that we always want, but it's always the perfect answer. It's always the right answer. It's always the right solution. It's always the right door that he opens. It's always the right person that he sends into your life. It's always the wrong person that he takes out of your life. You see, we think that that's the right person, and we think that that's the person that should be with us forever. And Yahweh is saying, no, that is not who you're supposed to be with. And it hurts. And we pray and ask God, why did you remove this person? Why did you remove that job? Hey, it was for your good. Oh, it was for your good. And back to Naaman. He has leprosy. He comes to the man of God. He wants the man of God to come out and say fantastic words and probably wave his hands and some lightning flashes or an eclipse happens. He wants something fantastic and Elijah doesn't even come out. He sends a servant, go dip yourself in the Jordan 7 times. What? The Jordan? That dirty thing? Imagine if Yahweh said to get rid of your eczema, go dip in the bayou 7 times. What? What? Nah, Lord. Nah, I'm going to stick with this eczema cream for right now. I'm going to wipe this cream on me. Let me get this Aveeno. I ain't dipping in no bayou. But he has leprosy. It's a debilitating skin disease. It's disfiguring him. There's nothing else that can cure him. And first, he's upset about the slight and the disrespect that the man of God didn't come out to meet and greet him. Hey. And he wants to turn away and he wants to go home. But his advisors, his servants said, if the man of God had asked you to do something fantastic, you would have done it. All he's asking you to do is go dip 7 times in the river. And he realizes that he has come to the limit. He has come to the limit of his physical. Because Naaman was a great warrior. Any problem Naaman can handle with a sword and his might. But this was a problem. Hey, God, this was a problem that Naaman could not solve physically. This was a God problem. There was no known cure. Hey, there was no known cure for leprosy. This was a job for Yahweh. He couldn't scrape the sores off. He couldn't cut his skin off. This was something he needed God for. And he reluctantly but obediently went down to the river, and he dipped the first time and he came up, and he's probably looking at his skin saying, I knew nothing was going to happen. And his advisor said, he said 7, and he dipped the second time and he came up and nothing. And he dipped the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth time. And coming up out the water at the sixth time, at this point, I'm sure he's exasperated, because you would think by now, at least you might see a little bit of healing taking place. You might see a little of the bumps and scars going away. And this is what happens with us humans. This is what happens with us Christians. God is telling us to go through it to completion. That's what 7 is. It's a perfect number. It's the number of completion. He is saying that I have a job for you to complete, and you're not going to see the miracle until you hit completion. You're not going to get a halfway miracle from God. He is saying you've got to go all the way. You've got to dip the 7th time. You've got to go down the 7th time. You've got to dip in the water the 7th time to have the miracle come forth. So Naaman dipped, and he came up the 7th time, and his skin, the miracle happened. His skin was like a newborn babe. Paradox. I have to go dip in a dirty river to be clean. Hey. Paradox. When I am weak, then I am strong. Paradox. Christ's weakest moment. Woo! Hey, God. Yeshua Christ's weakest moment upon the cross gave him the greatest power. The greatest power. Hey, the power over death. The greatest power that a man God could have. Because he is already the greatest power. Get me? But he had to come in the form of man to reclaim everything that the devil had taken from Adam. And that was the greatest thing that the devil held over the heads of the humans, the sword of Damocles. It was the greatest fear that humans have is death. Humans want to live forever. It's a self-preservation within us. And at Christ's weakest moment, he attained the greatest victory. Hey, it's a paradox. So what I want you to understand is where man's pride ends, Yahweh's power begins. Say, because that's what keeps us from surrendering. That's the weakness right there. When we are weak, then we are strong. It's when we surrender, then we attain the greatest victory. When we surrender and let go of our pride of trying to do it ourselves. God, I got it. 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 But we ain't got it. Hey, it reminds me of the episode with Good Times. Spoiler alert, if you guys haven't seen Good Times by now, it came out in the 70s. Come on now. But in part 2 of when James dies, the father dies, and Florida Evans, the mother, is telling the children at the end, she's cleaning up and the kids are saying, I got it. And she's pretending to be strong, even though her life partner, her husband, the love of her life has died. And she's trying to be strong. And she says, I'm strong. I'm fine. I'm okay. But she's not. And she's cleaning up and the children come to help and she yells at them. She says, I got it. She starts cleaning up. And in the midst of the cleaning up, she smashes the bowl. And finally, all the pain and the anguish and the hurt comes out. because she ain't got it. And that's what we do. We want to handle every situation and we want to tell God, I got it, God, I got it, I got it, I got it. What you got is a mess. Because when we try and fix things, all we do is mess it up. So at our weakest point, where man's pride ends, is where Yahweh's power begins. That's where the miracle starts to manifest in our lives. Hey, when we just get out the way, when we just humble ourselves and say, hey, you got it, God. You got it. Because this battle, like we said, it's not against flesh and blood. So are you battle ready, Preeminence Christian Fellowship? Are you battle ready, saints who are watching this? Are you battle ready? Are you equipped for the right fight? In Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, it says, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against authorities, against powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realm. You see, so we are not fighting a physical war. We are fighting a spiritual war. So are you prepared and are you preparing for the right opponent? Are you preparing for the right fight? I love UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championship. I love the UFC. Has superseded boxing to me as a combat sport here in the United States. Actually, for me around the world, but as a combat sport. But the interesting thing that I like about the UFC is that in boxing, you might fight a orthodox fighter, who means that it's a right-handed fighter, but sometimes you might face a southpaw, meaning that he is left-handed. So those are the only two types of fighters that you're going to face in boxing. But the reason I love the UFC is because there are multiple fighting styles, and you don't know who you are going to face. You can face a striker, which is someone who is good with their hands and their feet. You can fight a kickboxer. You can fight a Muay Thai fighter. You can fight a wrestler. You can fight someone who is versed in jiu-jitsu. You might even find somebody who is versed in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You have many different opponents that are going to be coming for you. So as the champion, one title defense, I might fight a striker. Another one, I've got to prepare for a wrestler. The other one, I might have to prepare for someone who is versed in jiu-jitsu. The point is that every time they go out to fight, they have to prepare for a different opponent. In this life, we are not facing a physical opponent. When cancer comes for you, I can't punch cancer for you. When diabetes comes for you, I can't punch that for you. When depression and despair start to overtake you, I can't hold it down and lock it up. But in the name of Yahweh, in the name of Yeshua, I can say, I bind that spirit. I bind that cancer. You are healed through Yeshua's blood. By his stripes, you are healed. That's how we fight in the spiritual. But are we preparing for a spiritual fight? Are we getting in his presence every single day? And are we preparing for a spiritual fight? You cannot punch every problem. That's pride. That's why I said at the end of man's pride, Yahweh's power begins. Pride makes you think that you can punch everything. And people try and punch the world. And when it's something that you cannot hit, like fear, well, then you lash out at someone physical. When you cannot lash out and hit the problem of depression, you lash out and you hit the child, or you lash out and you hit your wife, or you get into a fight physically with someone because you cannot fight the problem. But Yahweh says that if you just humble yourself and be weak, and let me fight the problem for you. He is the source of our strength. This is not a physiological battle. This is a spiritual battle. So this isn't about how many muscles I have and how beefed up I am. No. This is about how strong I am in my relationship with Yahweh. Be strong in the Lord. Back to Ephesians chapter 6. Back to Ephesians chapter 6, beginning at verse 10. It says, finally, be strong in Yahweh and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. But now I want to break this down where it says, finally, be strong in the Lord. See, in the Greek, it says, be strengthened. You see, because the word strong has an implication. The word strong has an implication in it that I can use my own strength. But that's why the most important part is in the. Finally, be strong. See, if it just said, finally, be strong and stand against the devil's schemes, you would think that you're using your might. But it says, finally, be strong in the Lord. It means that your strength is coming from Yahweh. So that's why the better translation in the Greek, it says, finally be strengthened in the Lord. Because that is who is strengthening you. That's the source of your supply. Because you need spirit to battle spirit. And you need a bigger spirit to overcome the other spirit. You need the ultimate spirit in Yahweh. You need the ultimate spirit in the Holy Spirit to overcome the schemes and the devil. So finally be strengthened in the Lord. And then we get to the part where it says, in his mighty power. Hey, come on now. In the Greek, it's dunamis. And that is a great word, dunamis. It means inherent power. Hey. Inherent means that it comes with that power. If we were saying that we're from the South, my big brother Ray doesn't have to lift weights. Ray's just inherently strong. Ray is what we say he got country strength. It means that like he came out the womb just strong. He's built different to everybody else. So he's got an inherent strength. So what happens with Yeshua is that Yeshua is God. Hey, inherently he has power. So when it says be strong in the Lord, be strong in Yeshua, when it says that, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God. It means that he is inherently strong. He is inherently mightier than every other thing on this earth, in this world, in this universe. Put on the dunamis, the inherent power. And in the Greek, it says, finally, be constantly strengthened in the Lord and in the active efficacy of the might that is inherent in him. Oh, that's a mouthful. That's a mouthful. Finally, be constantly strengthened in the Lord. It's a continuous strengthening. Hey, come on now, because we're continuously going through battles. So this isn't a strength and a power that we just need once. Hey, come on now. That's the beauty. Let's take an aside. That's the beauty of Yahweh dying upon the cross. Because the power now isn't like in the days of Samson, where it says that the power of Yahweh came upon. Hey, no. It's not saying it came upon. The power does not come upon us anymore. The power comes out from inside of us. Hey. In the Greek, it says that Yahweh's power shines in us, just like Yahweh's Shekinah glory shone in the tent, in the holy tent in the days of Moses and the children of Israel. Remember that they built a tabernacle, but remember this was not a physical building so that Yahweh's presence could come and meet them. This was not a building. Remember, they were nomads, so they had a tent. Please get this. They had a tent where Yahweh's glory and Yahweh himself would come and reside within the tent, and his glory would illuminate out of the tent. Hey, come on, God. And so now in the New Testament, they are using the same words, and they are saying that Yahweh's strength, his Holy Spirit, is shining within the tent of our bodies. He is saying that his glory is shining out of us continuously. The beauty about the cross, when Yeshua died upon the cross, is that he brought us back into union to where we don't have to go to a tabernacle. We don't have to go to church to find Yahweh. That's not where he is. When you're a Christian, he is residing within you, within this tent, within this physical body. That is where he is. So the word of God is so poignant and so accurate at this time, where it says, finally, be constantly strengthened. We're constantly being strengthened because his presence and power is constantly in us. Remember the last sermon series where I said we are peace? Because his peace resides within us. You are power. You are Yahweh's power because his power resides within you. That's what makes us strong. We just have to step out of the way and let Yahweh go. Yahweh, handle it. Stop messing it up with your pride. Let the humanness fall back. Surrender in your flesh and let the Spirit work. Hey. So it says, be strengthened in the Lord and in the active efficacy of his might. That simply means it works. We don't have to guess if Yahweh's might works. We know. We know. Because in every situation, he works all things out for our good. In every situation, we are going to be victorious. At the end, even though it seems dark and bleak, we win. We win in the active efficacy of the might that is inherent in him. And that inherent might in him now resides within you and within me. As we close, I want to go to Ephesians chapter 6 again, beginning at verse 13. Verse 13 says, therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when, hey, God, come on. So that when, notice it didn't say if, it says so that when the day of evil comes, you may be able to stand your ground, and after you have done everything, to stand. I want to close by reading it in the Amplified because I feel like it says it so much better for me than to come up with a closing of my own. Therefore, put on the complete armor of God so that you will be able to successfully resist and stand your ground in the evil day of danger. And having done everything that the crisis demands, to stand firm in your place. Hey, this is my part. Fully prepared, immovable, and victorious. Hey. I just wanted to pop in for less than 2 minutes just to leave you with a final thought. The one thing I pray that you get from this, that being strong requires us to be weak. But it isn't weak in the traditional sense that we believe it is being weak. It means to be surrendered, being surrendered to Yahweh's will, being surrendered to the greater power within us. We don't fight against flesh and blood. We're fighting against principalities. We're fighting against demons. We're fighting against sin. It's not always something that you can see. But at the end of our pride, that's where Yahweh's power begins. When we've reached our extremity, just like the widow, when she had reached her last and nothing else was working, and it didn't make sense what the prophet told her to do, but she did it. When Naaman reached his end and it didn't make sense what the prophet told him to do, but he had reached his end, he had nothing else, but it's like, I might as well. I've got nothing else. I've got to try this. I've got to do this. What is Yahweh instructing you to do? But we're still fighting it. Pause and think about that. What is Yahweh telling us that we need to do and we need to let go of? But we're fighting it. And see, that's why we're still going through the trial. Because when we reach that point to where we're almost broken, where we've run out of excuses to not listen and to do what Yahweh is telling us to do, then our pride will subside. We will decrease. He will increase in our lives. He will show out and show up in our lives, and we will be victorious. So when you are hearing that you have to be weak to be strong, it's not physically weak. It's surrendered to Yahweh. It's being reliant on Yahweh. It's saying that Yahweh, I can't do this myself. This is a spiritual war. Physiologically, I can't fight this thing that we're fighting, but this is a spiritual war. We're at spiritual war, people. We're at spiritual war, saints. So I want you to know and hold on to this fact that in the end, you will be victorious. His inherent power, the same power that created this universe, that same power that created all of the angels, his same power that allowed him to die upon the cross and resurrect his own self, that same power is residing within you and within me. Be strengthened, be strong.